My elder sister's greatest dream was to live out a story from her romance novels. The classic trope where a wealthy lady falls for a poor scholar. On the day of her grand wedding to Prince Ji, she actually ran away with a scholar. Left with no choice, my stepmother could only force me to take her place as the bride. Prince Ji's heart always belonged to my sister, and he promised to let me go once the rightful bride returned. Being sensible, I drank the contraceptive soup every single night. I never forgot my place. Until 3 years later, I discovered I had accidentally become pregnant. What terrified me most was overhearing that Prince Ji had found my sister and brought her back. I immediately died to tactfully exit the scene. Later, on a boat heading south, Prince Ji stared at me with a grim expression. I wonder, my lady, if you have seen my runaway princess? Madam, this is bad. The eldest young lady has run away. What did you say? The eldest lady has been reading those romance novels lately. Who would have thought she'd actually run off with that poor scholar last night? My father snatched up the book titled The Domineering Lady's Ultimate Love, Pampered by the Gentle Scholar. Upon seeing the title, he fainted from pure rage. The manor instantly turned into a chaotic mess. My stepmother swayed on her feet, and the nanny beside her quickly supported her. Madam, the priority now is how to explain this to Prince Ji. Hearing this, my stepmother gritted her teeth, forcing herself not to pass out. Her sharp eyes swept across the room and landed on me, who was casually eating melon seeds and watching the drama. Though her face was full of reluctance, she took several large strides toward me. She grabbed my hand and began to cry piteously. My daughter, has mother treated you well usually? I am just a lowly daughter of a concubine. She continued, your elder sister, has she been kind to you? Hardly at all, I replied. My stepmother choked on her words for a moment. Now is the time for you to repay the family. Your questions were completely redundant. Rumor has it Prince Ji kills without blinking. If he found out the Su family's legitimate daughter fled the wedding and we tried to fool him with a concubine's daughter, I'd likely be the first one to lose my head. My stepmother's plan was simply to use my life to appease Prince Ji's wrath. Don't worry. From now on, you will also be a legitimate daughter of this manor. She was gritting her teeth so hard they were about to shatter. Your mother's remains can also be properly enshrined and honored. I knew that even if I didn't agree today, I would be tied up and thrown into the bridal sedan chair anyway. I could only nod in agreement. Dressed in my sister's golden shoe brocade robes, amidst the sounds of my stepmother's feigned distress, and to the festive music of the procession, I entered Prince Ji's manor. Gu Shen was not as fierce and cruel as the rumors suggested. Back at home, I only got to eat if I obeyed my sister. Even then, it was only one meal a day. Sometimes, when she lost her temper, I would even be whipped. Fortunately, my sister was weak, so she didn't leave many scars. Only after the punishment would I get a full meal the next day. Not to mention any allowance. Despite being from a prestigious family, I could only wear my sister's hand-me-downs. All because my stepmother saw my mother as a thorn in her side. After coming to the prince's manor, Gu Shen didn't care what I ate. I had balanced nutrition every day, and I even grew quite a bit taller. Gu Shen's household was very disciplined. The servants didn't dare to look down on anyone. Except for being tossed around and exhausted every night, life was actually quite comfortable. I curled up in Gu Shen's arms, rubbing against his neck and flattering him. Your Highness is truly mighty. I always remembered I was being paid to do a job. I had to make Gu Shen feel he was getting his money's worth. Gu Shen smirked and patted the top of my head. That pure gold crown I ordered for you should be finished in a few days. My eyes instantly lit up. Your Highness, you're the best. Look at that. Even the highly intelligent Prince Ji, who was as cunning as a fox, couldn't resist a bit of sweet talking. I nuzzled against Gu Shen's neck, unable to help feeling sentimental in my heart. How wonderful it would be if I could live like this forever. The patron is generous and often busy elsewhere. Just as I was lying comfortably in bed, a maid stood by the bedside, bringing a bowl of dark, bitter herbal medicine. My heart skipped a beat. I snapped awake instantly, quickly scrambled up, took the bowl, and tilted my head back, drinking it until not a single drop remained. Every day after our intimacy, Gu Shen would have me drink a decoction to prevent pregnancy. It wasn't just that Gu Shen wouldn't allow me to have a child. I knew myself that I absolutely couldn't have one. I was merely a temporary replacement while my sister was away. On the wedding night, I had confessed the truth of the substitute marriage to Gu Shen. Originally, I was so hungry I was dizzy, and on the way, I was plotting how to fool him and then find a way to escape. It was only after I was full that I realized those plans were impossible to execute. Although Gu Shen doesn't involve himself in politics now, he had been fighting alongside the late emperor since he was 13. He is the new emperor's uncle, and was the one who placed him on the throne. Lying definitely wouldn't work. One lie would require countless more to cover it up. After much thought, honesty was the only path to survival. Gu Shen remained silent, leaving me wondering if I'd survive his royal wrath. I was so nervous that my back was covered in a thin layer of cold sweat. After a long while, I heard Gu Shen's indifferent voice above me. I will send people to find your sister Until then, you will temporarily hold the position of princess consort. I was deeply grateful for this face. That looked 50% like my sister's. I will work like a horse to repay you. Sigh. That's not necessary. I naturally got up to help Gushin change his clothes. Then retreated to the outer couch. Rest assured, Your Highness, I will act as a maid from now on. And I will stay out of your way. I really thought I was being clever. Who knew that just as I was about to leave, I felt a tighten around my waist. Gushin pulled me back in one swift motion. On our wedding night. Do you want the servants to laugh at me? My whole body froze. This would require an extra fee. Gushin continued, when we find your sister later, I will give you a generous sum of money as compensation. Do not covet things that do not belong to you. Understood, Your Highness. No problem, Your Highness. I briskly washed up and made myself ready. Gushin's lips curled slightly. When he turned around, he saw the bedsheets were covered in peanut, longan, and melon seed shells. The servants here are getting more and more undisciplined. Even the auspicious snacks for the wedding bed. They only scattered empty shells. And there wasn't a single red date. Tomorrow, they must be punished. Who could be so bold? He turned his head and saw a melon seed shell clearly stuck to my lip. And in my sleeves were the red dates that were supposed to be on the bed. I gave a dry laugh. As expected of the prince's manner, the quality of the bed snacks is exceptional. Gushin gave me a complicated look. Originally, I had two plans. If I were to be killed, at least I'd die with a full stomach. If I were thrown out, I could survive for a few days. I didn't expect to get away with it so easily, knowing I was in the wrong. I worked extra hard to serve my patron that night. For 3 years, I strictly followed the rules and served him with all my heart. I drank every drop of the contraceptive medicine every time. When my sister eventually returns, if she sees a substitute with a child, she would surely find a way to eliminate us. The best outcome for me would be being sent away. I wouldn't be able to protect a child. Even if the child lived, I wouldn't want them to grow up the way I did. Seeing me drink it obediently, Gushin rewarded me with a round golden ingot. Placing it in my hand, my eyes sparkled. If one bowl of medicine was worth 1 ingot of gold, not to brag, but I could keep drinking it forever. You little money grubber. Your little chest must be almost full by now, right? I felt a bit wary. How did he know about my treasure chest? I flashed a pleasing smile at the man before me. Then lay back down and hugged Gushin's waist affectionately. Gushin's breathing hitched for a moment. He patted my waist. Be good and lie down. I obediently moved to the inner side of the bed and lay flat. Since I'm so adaptable, and Gushin is so wealthy, once Gushin finds my sister, I must make sure to ask for a huge sum of money for my retirement. I need to go out of the city for a while. I'll be back in 3 days. I was bleary-eyed. But I maintained my professional spirit. Take care of yourself, Your Highness. I will miss you. Gushin stroked my hair idly. Without saying a word, a moment later, I fell asleep. 3 days later, Gushin returned to the manor. Early in the morning, I took the pear soup Xiao Tao had stewed and went to the study to find him, hoping to talk him into giving me 2 more gold bars. Just as I was about to knock, I heard voices coming from inside. How is Su Jinra doing? My head started buzzing. I gripped the tray so hard my fingertips turned white. My heart began to sink slowly. My sister is back. I felt like I had fallen into an ice cave. In an instant, it was as if I returned to those years of surviving under her thumb. My father favored her and didn't give me a second glance. After my mother passed away, my sister made me kneel as punishment for stealing a bite of food. I was starved for 3 whole days. Even my mother's spirit tablet was trampled and humiliated by her. The man I had shared a bed with for 3 years had also been searching for her all this time. The guard's voice sounded. The eldest Miss Su has returned to the Su family. And the scholar? I didn't wait to hear more. I didn't go in. I turned around and went back to my courtyard. So, the reason he left the city was because he had news of her and went to find her. He even sent shadow guards to escort her home. When I went back to my family's home to retrieve my mother's tablet, he only sent Shadow Guard 13. Secret protection. She really is the white moonlight he couldn't have. I need to make preparations early. Fortunately, my new romance novel, The Prince's Cute Runaway Bride, is finally finished. This novel, based on Prince Chi and my sister, has earned me a fortune. As I was calculating how much money I had saved, a sudden wave of nausea surged up. I was terrified. Thinking back, my appetite had been poor these past few days, and lately, I've been feeling unusually drowsy. I thought it was just springtime fatigue, but I've always been cautious in this regard. After Gushin left the house, I secretly had Xiao Tao find a female doctor from the neighboring county. While waiting, I fell asleep again on the daybed by the window. In my dream, Gushin stared coldly at me as I knelt on the floor. How dare you get pregnant secretly? Only my beloved is worthy of bearing my children. My sister suddenly walked out from behind him, delicately leaning her hand on his shoulder. The way she looked at me was both contemptuous and triumphant. Gushin held his long-lost love and looked at me, kneeling, with cold eyes. Since you've occupied her place for 2 years, you already owe her a great deal. His voice was indifferent, making my heart tremble with cold. Because you've served me for a while. Drink this abortifacient soup. And then get out. I looked at the dark medicine, feeling only bitterness in my heart, but thinking of my treasure chest. I took it and kowtowed. I'll leave right now. I'm leaving. Just as I was about to go, my sister suddenly spoke, leave the chest behind. Gushin gave those to me. This is what belongs to you. Gushin looked at my sister with such doting affection, even placing my golden crown on her head. My sister turned to look at me mockingly. Someone, come and force the medicine down her throat. Then throw her out of the manor. As soon as she spoke, 2 burly men approached. They were Gushin's personal guards. My jaw was gripped, my head forced back, and the bitter black medicine was poured into my mouth. Once they were done, they grabbed my arms and dragged me out. I watched my treasure chest get further and further away, and my heart felt like it was being crushed, twisted back and forth. They tossed me out at the main gate. It was snowing heavily outside. I was only wearing an old, thin garment my sister had discarded. I was shivering uncontrollably from the cold. Gushin hadn't given me a single copper coin. A moment later, the gate opened again. It was those 2 men again. They dragged out Xiao Tao, who was covered in blood. This person stole from the manor's treasury. She has been executed on the spot by our princess consort. I felt the blood in my veins freeze. I held Xiao Tao in the swirling snow and wailed. Xiao Tao. I was wrong. I shouldn't have coveted things that didn't belong to me. I'll never do it again. Please wake up, okay? Xiao Tao, Xiao Tao. I woke up with a start. Before me was Xiao Tao's enlarged face, looking at me with concern. Miss, I'm right here. I reached out to touch Xiao Tao's face. It was still warm. Xiao Tao reached out and wiped the tears from my face. Did you have a nightmare, miss? The female doctor is here. Let her take a look at you. The doctor bowed to me. The pulse confirmation was like a bolt from the blue. Although I had my suspicions, I was still hoping for a mistake. Recalling the scene from the dream, I felt a chill seep into my bones. It had to be at a time like this. Fortunately, I've saved a lot of money over these 2 years. Buying a small courtyard in a distant countryside would be enough for Xiao Tao and me to live a stable life. I counted the jewelry Gushin had given me again. Most were gold. And there were a few gemstones. I won't be able to take these with me later, but I can sell them now, to be safe. I still need to save more money. Gushin returned that evening. As soon as he entered, he scooped me up in his arms and strode toward the bed. I was already prepared. I had applied makeup to look frail and claimed I was feeling unwell. Gushin frowned, looking a bit dissatisfied. Did you call the imperial physician? He said as he moved to get up and call someone. I quickly said, I just need some water. As he lay beside me that night, he suddenly asked out of nowhere, I heard you brought in a woman from the neighboring county? My heart thudded. Xiao Tao heard she knew how to make pear blossom incense, and she begged me to invite her to teach her. She was sent away in less than an hour. My heart sank heavily. He really does know everything. Xiao Tao didn't have the patience to learn. So I just bought some incense and sent her away. Women have ailments they're embarrassed to mention. That was the female doctor's excuse for visiting. That's what they always tell outsiders. Feeling the tiny life that hadn't yet formed in my belly, I tentatively spoke up. I heard on the street that Master Wan's mistress is pregnant. He wants to bring her into the household. But his wife is making a huge scene. His wife's family is powerful. If she really doesn't agree, I'm afraid that child will become an illegitimate outcast. Gushin hummed against my ear. He didn't take a stance. Even more uncertain of his thoughts, I continued to test him. What would your highness do if you had an illegitimate child? Gushin was silent for a long moment. Just when I thought he wouldn't answer, he spoke slowly. I will never have an illegitimate child. Why is that? Gushin patted me, his voice sounding weary. By dealing with the mother, there will be no child. I didn't say another word. I just kept my eyes open, lying motionless in his arms. I didn't fall asleep until dawn. I thought about it for a long time last night. If Gushin has a conscience, he'd give me money and let me go. But knowing my sister's temperament, once she learns I've held her position for 2 years and enjoyed her status, she might want to kill me. Besides, I am now carrying a secret that would surely mean my death. Looking at Xiao Tao nearby, munching on a chicken leg with oil all over her mouth, I cannot just sit and wait for my end. I must find a dignified way out for myself before Gushin decides to get rid of me. A divorce is out of the question. But I can die of illness. It would also be better for Gushin's reputation as long as I escape before my sister makes her move. Nothing from the dream will happen. I packed everything up. Personally cooked a table full of food, intending to leave overnight after asking for his final grace. Gushin didn't come back that night. A maid came to report that the prince had been invited by Master Su. The message was for the princess not to wait, and to rest early. Right, my sister is back. Gushin naturally has to go and accompany her. I sat alone in the room all night. Early the next morning, I dressed in men's clothing and slipped out of the manor. I pawned all the jewelry and converted the gold and silver into portable banknotes. I heard people on the street discussing a wedding in the Su family. In the Su family, only the newly returned eldest daughter is unmarried. It's obvious who this wedding is for. Thinking of Gushin staying overnight at the Su manor, I suppressed a wave of nausea. I had a vague feeling that this matter might not end well. Sure enough, plans couldn't keep up with changes. Early the next morning, I received an invitation from my sister to meet. I held the invitation, and my heart completely sank to the bottom. My sister has always been cruel. This summer invitation, I'm afraid there's no coming back from it. As long as I'm dead, she can naturally and rightfully marry Gushin. Gushin went to the palace early this morning, likely to clear the way for my sister's status. Su Qingru set the meeting at the largest restaurant in the capital. This is clearly a hongmen banquet. I would never go. I watched from a distance as she sat by the window. The large round table before her was covered with delicacies. It seems she hasn't eaten such fine things for these past 2 years. She was repeatedly stroking a book, which had gold-leafed characters printed on it. The Prince's Cute Runaway Bride. Ever since I knew my sister loved romance novels, I had thought of weaving a dream for her. 3 years ago, the novel I wrote, The Domineering Lady's Ultimate Love, Pampered by the Gentle Scholar, took the capital by storm. In that story of the scholar and the lady, the scholar couldn't bear to let the lady do any work. He could not only write poetry and prose but also go hunting in the mountains. He was as efficient as 8 men. He was energetic at night, and finally became the top scholar in the exams, gaining high office. The female lead also fiercely slapped the faces of the women who looked down on her. Looking at her now, Su Qingru's face showed a coarseness she couldn't hide, along with those cracked, rough hands. Even though she was dressed in fine silks and jewels, she couldn't maintain the aura of the wealthy lady she once was. Su Qingru, you don't know that the dream I wove for you turned out to be quite different, didn't it? Before I leave, I naturally left a big gift for my stepmother as well. The book, The Scandalous Tale of the Madam and the Groom, should start selling today. With the reputation I've built over the years, it will surely be sold out as soon as it hits the shelves. Xiao Tao and I, carrying all the money I'd saved, changed into simple, coarse clothes. Under the cover of night, I set fire to the house. The princess consort of Qi died in a fire. I even provided the reason for them. It was really thoughtful, but Xiao Tao had already gotten into the carriage we prepared. I just wanted to survive, but my sister and Gushin just wanted me to rightfully give up the position of the princess consort of Qi. Though this fire wouldn't fool Gushin, it was already enough. Everything I had as the princess consort of Qi was burned to ashes. I only took my treasure chest with me. Xiao Tao and I disguised ourselves as men and boarded a cargo ship heading south. I stood in the ship's cabin, watching the bustling capital fade into the distance. If all goes well, I won't return for the rest of my life. The ship moved very fast. Along the way, I saw the people living in peace and prosperity. Gushin's name is highly respected among the common people. He's not just the ruthless man the capital rumors him to be. I was seasick and kept vomiting. I was in unbearable agony. Fortunately, I met a kind young man on the ship who took fairly good care of us. Somehow, during the journey south, I dreamed of the first time I saw Gushin. It was early spring, 3 years ago. My sister had read a picture book about a scholar and a lady falling in love at first sight while flying a kite. She insisted on going for a spring outing by the river. When my sister wanted to fly a kite, she made me get it into the air before handing it to her. There was no wind that day. My sister and her maid sat in the shade, drinking tea. I was already malnourished, and I felt dizzy from all the running. And this was just one of the thousands of ways my sister used to torment me daily. Just as I was about to collapse from exhaustion, the kite finally took flight. When I brought it to her, I saw her looking bashful and flirtatious, gazing at the men on a painted boat on the river. 5 or 6 men stood on that boat, laughing and joking loudly as they looked at us. Only one man, dressed in plain cloth, spoke up to stop them. The others were all sons of noble families, and none of them respected him. The man's face turned red, and he bowed from a distance to apologize to my sister. That man was the scholar my sister eventually eloped with. The only one sitting behind them, drinking tea, was the Prince of Qi, Gushin. It turns out, the scholar wasn't the only one who noticed my sister back then. This must have been the moment Gushin fell in love with her at first sight. Waking up and recalling that scene, I started vomiting uncontrollably again. Just then, the ship docked at a port. Xiao Tao and I wanted to go ashore for a walk. Before we could disembark, a group of soldiers boarded the ship. After the soldiers took their positions, A group of men in black followed, with bows and arrows at their waists. I recognized them instantly as men from the Prince of Cheese Manor. Leading them was Gushin's personal guard, Ying. I pulled Xiao Tao into a gap in the cargo hold, holding my breath. My heart sank. Was Gushin refusing to let me go? Or did my sister send them using Gushin's authority? I thought that over the past 3 years, I had served Gushin well enough. Even if he didn't love me, he should have spared me. For the sake of everything I had given up, if my sister sent them, then it would be truly fatal. The cargo hold was silent. Xiao Tao and I covered our mouths and curled up tight. With a creak, the door to the hold opened. Someone walked in with light footsteps and began searching the area. Xiao Tao was trembling with fear. I gently pressed on her shoulder to comfort her. The footsteps drew closer. They stopped just on the other side of the wooden crate. I stared intently at the shadows on the floor. The shadow suddenly took a step forward. I held my breath. Just when I thought we were about to be discovered, the shadow suddenly retreated. The footsteps gradually faded away. The moment the door closed, Xiao Tao and I both collapsed on the floor, gasping for air. Just as I was about to get up and check the situation, a pair of large hands pinned me down from behind. I almost screamed. I turned around and saw the young man who had been looking after us poking his head out. I had been startled repeatedly. Fortunately, it was all just a false alarm. The young man signaled for us to stay quiet. They're still walking around outside. Don't make a sound. I'll take you out in a while. I nodded, and the three of us sat together, waiting. When the shout of withdraw came from the ship, we all breathed a sigh of relief. We had made it through this ordeal. My vision went dark as I stood up after crouching for so long. I nearly toppled over. Luckily, someone beside me caught me. With a bang, the cargo hold door opened again. I struggled to open my eyes and looked at the person walking in against the light. In an instant, my blood ran cold. Gushin's cold gaze was fixed on me. Have you held him long enough? I quickly pulled away from the young man's embrace. His arms were now empty. The young man stepped forward to shield me. Like a newborn calf unafraid of a tiger, he spoke up. How can the great Prince of Qi have the face to force a woman? Gushin's face was so dark it looked like it could drip ink. Before he could finish, several men entered from outside. They muffled the young man's mouth and carried him out. Yingyi also entered and dragged Xiao Tao away. Xiao Tao was terrified, completely defenseless. Silence filled the cargo hold once more, with only the smell of grain lingering in the air. Gushin walked slowly toward me. Every step felt like he was treading on my heart. Finally, he stopped just one step away. I wonder if you have seen my runaway princess consort. I kept my head down, not daring to look at him. Then, I was taken back to his ship. And we sailed back in the direction we had come from. I was locked in a room. Gushin didn't return until evening. I plucked up the courage to ask where Xiao Tao was. I only heard a cold laugh from above my head. You'd better worry about yourself first. As soon as he spoke, I felt the world spin. Gushin scooped me up and threw me onto the bed. Gushin's lips pressed down on mine, biting me hard. Wan, why did you run? I stiffened and didn't answer. I pushed him away while asking, where is Xiao Tao? Gushin's patience seemed to have run out. For that fool just now? Are you trying to elope like others? You are a married woman. He spoke with increasing urgency, his eyes turning red. Seeing me shrinking back, Gushin closed his eyes, noticing that he didn't seem to want to kill me. I gathered my courage and slowly reached out to stroke his back twice. Gushin's eyes darkened. The next second, he grabbed my neck and kissed me. When he tried to undo my belt, I suddenly snapped to my senses and stopped him. With a flushed face, his gaze was filled with dissatisfaction as he tried to continue. I refused again. After a few rounds of struggle, we both sat by the bed, panting. Gushin watched as I wrapped myself in the quilt, rolling myself up like a log. He laughed in frustration and reached out. He snatched my treasure chest into his hands. My eyes widened. I reached out to grab it back. Gushin dodged me while flipping through the contents. These are all quite valuable. Give it back. I grit my teeth so hard they nearly broke. It didn't just contain things he had given me. The money from selling my novels was in there too. My hard-earned money. I bit my lip hard and flopped back onto the bed. I felt completely hopeless. My money was gone, and Gushin didn't look like he would let me go either. Either he wanted to hand me over to Qingru for revenge, or he planned to keep both of us. A substitute has no chance against the man's white moonlight. No matter which it was, I couldn't escape my fate of being tortured. If I had known, I should have performed worse these past 3 years. So Gushin would find me boring. Then maybe he would have let me go by now. The next day, I still didn't see Xiao Tao. My seasickness was so bad I kept vomiting. To my surprise, Gushin took care of me himself. He even let me go ashore for a bit to buy some medicine at a clinic. He really was good to me when Qingru wasn't around. That's why it was so painful to leave. I pretended to be shy and pushed Gushin out of the clinic door. He didn't insist on staying. After all, the entire clinic was already surrounded. The doctor took my pulse. Madam, your body was likely poorly cared for in your early years. It's not ideal for you to be pregnant now. That's why your reaction is so severe. If you force an abortion, it might cause permanent damage. It would be difficult for you to conceive again. I headed back with my seasickness medicine. On the way back, I overheard people talking about my book, The Untold Tale of the Madam and the Horse Groom 2, and the sequel to Part 3. I heard Lord Sue's wife had an affair with a groom long before she got married. It was said that when she married, she even brought that groom into her husband's household. I heard Lord Sue's eldest daughter was born premature. Is that true? Even the emperor scolded Lord Sue for his lack of family discipline. How could it be false? The affair between my stepmother and the groom was something I had discovered by accident, but I had no evidence. As long as everyone believed it, my father would definitely investigate. If he found even a tiny clue, my suspicious father would surely believe it. Even without solid proof, my stepmother would be nailed to the pillar of shame. Just like what she did to my mother back then. She claimed my mother seduced a fishmonger. To save the manor's reputation after such a scandal, they closed the doors and beat her to death with planks in the courtyard. Fearing I would be implicated, my mother shook her head at me before she died. She silently told me to protect myself. I will pay them back 1,000 times over. She loved framing concubines who had lost favor for having affairs with outsiders, and then executing them at home. Now, it's time for my stepmother to taste that same medicine. But my mother was framed. She, however, is actually guilty. Lying in bed that night, listening to the sound of the water outside, I made a decision. I'm sorry. To save my own life, I cannot keep this little one in my belly. My logic was actually very simple. If Chingru wants to take revenge on me, I'll fight her to the death. If I can't escape, I can accept death. But how could I bear to watch my child be harmed and die right before my eyes? Just as I was about to pour it into the teacup, the door was slammed open. Gushin's eyes shone with a bright light as he looked straight at me. Then he looked down at the abortion medicine in my hand. The light in his eyes vanished instantly. He swiped the medicine onto the floor, gripping my shoulders tightly. His eyes were full of hurt. Why did you run? Why don't you want our child? I turned my head away, my nose stinging with tears. It's you who doesn't want it. You only want Chingru. Gushin froze. He seemed to realize something. He helped me sit on the bed and looked at me seriously. Wanwan, are you jealous? This isn't about being jealous. If you love Chingru, I will die. I just want to live. Gushin had never seen me cry like this before, seeing my tears falling rapidly. He knelt before me in a panic. I don't love Chingru, he explained urgently. I haven't even seen clearly what she looks like. I was shocked by his words. That spring, when you were flying the kite, I noticed you at first glance. When I proposed to your father, he said you were the eldest daughter of the Su family. Chingru, I sent Ying to secretly deliver things to you, only to discover your father had lied. I also found out how Chingru treated you. So I had that poor scholar approach her and trick her into eloping. Didn't you notice the wedding dress was made exactly to your measurements? You were so thin back then, just skin and bones. You said I'd have to give up my position when she returned. I shouldn't want things that don't belong to me. Gushin flicked my forehead. Did you think I didn't know you planned to run away the next day? You didn't know me. And you didn't believe I could love you. I had to give you a reason to stay. But even after 2 years, I still haven't won your heart. Since we were being honest, I continued to question him. You said you were going on a tour, but you were actually looking for Chingru, and you even had Ying watch her. When I visited my parents, only Ying 13 was there. She found her way back on her own. Ying has gone to watch her now. He won't let her near you again. But that scholar was on his way to take her back. Chingru won't be coming back. I've arranged for people to watch her. She won't be allowed back to the capital for the rest of her life. My tears fell uncontrollably. I choked out. But you made me take contraception medicine. Gushin reached out to wipe away my tears, but they only flowed faster. Your body was weak from your childhood. That was medicine to prevent pregnancy, but it was also to help nurse you back to health. It took 2 years to finally get some meat on your bones. I thought we'd wait another 2 years before having a child. I thought of the doctor in the small town, who also said my health wasn't great and that it wasn't ideal to be pregnant now. Alright, now let's talk about this. You were going to drink abortion medicine, weren't you? I felt guilty. And that kid in the cargo hold who tried to elope with you? I quietly turned my head away. And you burned all your things and the manor. I buried my head in his chest. I mumbled a rebuttal. You're the one who said you'd deal with the mother of the illegitimate child. Gushin pushed me away gently. He looked me straight in the eye. Wanwan, you are my wife. If you're pregnant, you should tell me happily that we're going to have a child. Instead of asking how to handle an illegitimate child. I was at a loss for words. I had never been loved, so naturally, I didn't know how to love someone back. I looked into his eyes. They were filled with heartache. Gushin slowly leaned closer to me. Just as he was about to kiss me, Xiao Tao's wailing suddenly erupted outside the door. Your Highness, no. Please don't. Please think of the child in my lady's belly. That's your own flesh and blood. If you want to vent your anger, kill Xiao Tao instead. My lady. Xiao Tao couldn't be stopped. She burst through the door and ran inside, only to see Gushin and me sitting calmly on the bed. Gushin's arm was still around me. Without missing a beat, Xiao Tao turned around and bolted back out. Ing 13 facebombed outside the door and thoughtfully helped Xiao Tao close the door again. I felt awkward. You're okay. As for Xiao Tao, you treat that little maid like a sister. You even took her with you when you faked your death. If I were to scare her, you'd surely fight me to the death. I honestly thought that Xiao Tao might have already been executed by him. I had even planned out my revenge. But I couldn't say that out loud. I guiltily gave Gushin a hug. Gushin held me back tightly. You will be the only woman in my life. I'm not lying. This is a very difficult thing to believe. His voice suddenly became dangerous. What do you mean by that answer? Or is there someone else in your heart? After all, you did try to elope with someone. It took a lot of effort to finally soothe this petty man. However, for the next several decades, whenever we had a fight, Gushin would bring up this old grudge. As for whether he was in my heart, I told him I'd give him an answer when I turned 80. Upon returning to the capital, the Prince of Cheese Manor had already been rebuilt. I heard my stepmother was very ill. My father sent her to a manor outside the city. I even went to visit her and brought her news of Qingru's situation. I'm so kind. My father was held accountable by the imperial censors. He was accused of disregard for human life, forming cliques for private gain, and several other crimes. Falling from grace is far more painful than dying instantly. He will soon realize that, because of his coldness and selfishness, not even his closest relatives are willing to lend him a hand. I still love filling my treasure chest. But Gushin checks it every morning and evening. He checks if my treasure chest is still there. Later, he even assigned Ing Yi to keep an eye on it. As long as the chest is there, I won't leave. I later found out that his guards were ranked in reverse order. Ing 13 was actually the number one. I successfully gave birth to a boy and a girl. 2 months later, I was pinned down on the bed by Gushin. The long overdue lesson had finally arrived. Gushin indeed kept his promise. I was the only one in his life. Of course, I didn't confirm this until I turned 80.